What's up, everyone? Football season is upon us, allegedly. Who knows what's going to happen? It's a crazy year in a crazy world. And therefore, as it relates to fantasy football, I think many of us, are probably not as prepared for your fantasy football draft as you may have been in past years. I certainly got started way later than normal, but I had my first draft this past week. And I have my tiers, which I'm going to share here with you. And I'm ready to rock. So if you have not done your homework just yet, I promise that this one video is all you need to probably dominate your weak-ass draft. If you want a copy of these tiers sent to you, just hit me up and I will share them with you for a nominal fee. I'm kidding. I'll do it for free just because you're very good looking. Anyhow, we know that the smart people go into the drafts with tiers, not with rankings, not with magazines, cheat sheets, bullshit. Tiers, tier-based drafting. That's how we want to go into a draft. And I'm going to run through right now my tiers for each position. We'll quickly touch on every relevant player, almost. We'll try to move through it pretty quick. I don't want to keep you. And who's got time these days anyway? So let's just get going and grab your notebook, pay attention, or just ask me for a copy of this and watch it while you read. We're starting with running backs. We're going to go running backs, wide receiver, heavy, and then just not take too much time on tight ends and QB, the onesie positions. Anyhow, tier 1 running backs, Christian McCaffrey. Take him first if you have the first pick. 11 of you in most drafts are going to be screwed because you're not going to have CMC. Serious, hard-hitting analysis there. Tier 2, Saquon and Zeke. The news about Kamara and Dalvin Cook this week, they pushed them out of this tier. Otherwise, they would be hanging with Zeke and Saquon. It's tier 3, Kamara, Derrick Henry, and Dalvin Cook. So I think you have the 6 elite. Some people would include the rookie from KC, who we'll talk about in a second in this group. I do not. So if you have one of the first six picks in your draft, depending on your risk tolerance, with the words about Kamara this week and his back/contract and Dalvin Cook with his contract, if I have one of the first 6 picks, I'm most likely taking one of these 6 players. I will listen to a Michael Thomas word if you want to take that route in your roster construction. Moving on, tier 4, Austin Eckler, Miles Sanders, Nick Chubb, Edwards-Helaire, Joe Mixon, and Aaron Jones. There's a clear, it seems, group here for me. Others would include Kenyon Drake and Josh Jacobs in this group. They're a tier below in my mind. So if you're at the back end of the draft and you're like going RB, you take 2 of these guys and you are off to the races. Everyone's preference of these 6 will be different. Like I said, I think consensus has the rookie Helaire up maybe in a top 7 elite. I don't. I just want to, in my first round, my anchor running back, if I'm going running back, I just rather and not be a rookie. I just think there are many ways that the rookie running backs starting off the season just can go wrong. I can see a split with Darrell Williams. I could see Darrell Williams getting the goal line work out of the gate. I can see pass protection being a problem with Mahomes. So Hilaire's probably just not going to end up on my team. I'd just rather have Miles Sanders. I'd rather have Austin Eckler. And Eckler is a guy who a number of people are down on is the wrong word, but for me, Eckler is the most comparable to Christian McCaffrey in the league right now. You take out Melvin Gordon, right? Obviously, Eckler's efficiency last year was absurd, and he caught 92 passes and had Phil Rivers throwing him the ball, who just loves to dump the ball off to his running backs. But you remove Melvin Gordon from the situation, which was 160 carries and I believe 62 catches, a ton of touches, and the goal line work. I know you have this rookie Josh Kelly coming in, who I like. I know Justin Jackson's a pretty good player. It's just I think Eckler is underrated if you can get him at the mid-second round. I think he's, I have him at the top of this tier, so I think he's basically the 7th running back on my board. Other than that, Chubb, Mixon, Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones is another one who I think might be a little underrated. You can probably get him in the middle of round 2 when he should be, more towards the turn. But again, to each his own with these 6 guys. Whatever your preference is, I'm okay with it. Tier 5, Josh Jacobs, James Conner, Kenyon Drake. I'm probably not going to have Jacobs or Drake on any one of my teams. They're just, again, they're part of the other tier as far as average draft position goes. For me, they're a little lower. Josh Jacobs has a lot of different pass catchers that they brought in there. They re-signed Jalen Richard, brought in Lynn Bowden in the draft, plus they drafted Ruggs and Edwards. There's a lot of kind of mouths to feed in the passing game, and he was very non-existent in the passing game already as a rookie. Kenyon Drake, I just love Chase Edmonds, who we'll talk about in a couple tiers down the line. Drake already in a walking boot last week. I love the idea of the running back on Arizona being a major factor in this season. I just rather take the cheaper play and think that Chase Edmonds is just as good of a player as Kenyon Drake. And James Conner, who I think is slowly moving up draft boards. I think he belongs in this group rather than a tier below. The thing is with James Conner, anytime he's been on the field in his 2 seasons so far, he's been a dominant RB1. Dominant, not just good. The problem is being on the field. And, according to Player Profiler, he's the player with the biggest risk of missing time this year. I don't know how they analyze these things, but these data nerds know what they're talking about. But James Conner, if you're going to, go RB and you can wait until the end of the second round and you could start potentially McCaffrey and Conner, I'm not mad at that at all. Tier 6, Chris Carson, Melvin Gordon, Jonathan Taylor. All solid. You can make a case here for all of them being quality picks. It just comes in a part of the draft where I love the receivers so much that I'm probably not going to end up. My roster construction just won't allow me to be looking for a running back where you would need to take Carson, Melvin, or John Taylor. If you think John Taylor's profile coming in is outstanding, and I think in the next 3 years he's going to be a top 5 pick in fantasy football. The question is, with Marlon Mack, with Nyheim Hines, and rookies are tough this year. Again, that goes back to another thing I didn't mention about Hilaire. Rookies are a little tough this year because there wasn't really an off-season program and no preseason. So they're going to have to learn on the job, and that's a little scary to draft a rookie that early. So I'm probably going to let somebody take the amazing talent of Jonathan Taylor, and back end of the year, if he's takes the job and goes with it, that would not surprise me at all. Tier 7, Mark Ingram, Todd Gurley, Deandre Swift, Leonard Fournette. So Ingram, everyone loves the rookie, and we'll talk about him in a minute, and Dobbins, but Ingram is still the starting running back on the best run offense in the league. Plain and simple, and you can get him in round 5, 6 even. I think there's some value there. Does he hold on to the job the whole year? I don't know, but you're looking for these pockets, these windows where your guy is going to perform, because it's very rare that you're going to get someone who does top level work for 16 games. So if I can get Ingram for the first 8 weeks at a dominant level, and then he gets hurt, or Dobbins comes in and takes 60% of the work to Ingram's 40%, I can figure that out later. Gurley, he's just not going to end up on my teams, even though he is he's getting down to the point where it's this is potentially worth a shot here in the 5th round. Can I see Gurley getting 20 touches a game in Atlanta in a high-powered offense and putting up some RB1 numbers? Yes. Do I think that extends for the whole season? Probably not. It's in a range in the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th rounds where I just love the wide receiver talent that it's going to be tough for me to take a guy like Gurley over it. All these guys really. But Deandre Swift, if I were going to reach for a running back in round 5, 6 area, it would probably be Swift. He is someone who I think is overlooked a little bit because I think he's going to split with Kerryon Johnson. A year ago, he was the clear best running back talent in college football. And if he came out a year ago, would have been the number 1 pick in all dynasty leagues. Instead, Hilaire goes to KC, Jonathan Taylor goes to Indy, and Swift kind of slips down the board to the 4 or 5 best rookie running back. I think that's a mistake. I think talent-wise, offense-wise, I think he's primed to, be the rookie that emerges this year, and sooner rather than later. Leonard Fournette, and this tier is made post his new team in Tampa. I think he's better than Ronald Jones, and I think he, probably not day 1, but I think he ends up emerging in the backfield of a Tom Brady-led offense with 2 stud alpha receivers, 2 great tight ends, and just a Bruce Arians offense. I think there's massive upside with Fournette, and you could make exactly what I said could have been the same for Ronald Jones. However, I think Fournette's just a better football player. Tier 8, David Johnson, Le'Veon Bell, James White, Cam Akers, Mostert, Hunt, and Dobbins. So interesting names in this tier. David Johnson is pretty low here, as you can tell. He's a end of the third round, mid fourth round guy. The case for David Johnson, they got panned for the trade of getting rid of Hopkins and getting in Johnson, right? So organizations, coaches, they don't like to look bad. So I think they're going to do everything in their power to try to make David Johnson work. I think that offense is going to have to move the ball because their defense is so poor. I like Duke Johnson behind him, but I think it's been proven that Duke is not someone that they want to give full bell cow work to. So, volume is more than half the equation in fantasy football. So, I'm not going to be mad at you if you take David Johnson. Again, it's just my roster construction is going to be taking Allen Robinson or Adam Thielen in that spot, not David Johnson. Le'Veon Bell, similar to Gurley, but worse. I think that has potential to just completely implode, and the offense is way worse. Le'Veon Bell won't be on any of my teams. James White, I probably have him higher here than most, and there's a good reason why, and it's because I want him on my squads this year, because the way I build rosters very often is one or none, 0 or 1 running backs early, a lot of pass catchers, and then figure out the RB2 slot. James White in the 7th, 8th round, that for me is a great way to fill out my RB2 slot this year. I think, Sony Michel, Damian Harris, Rex Burkhead still in the mix, but James White's role will be assured. They just got rid of Mohamed Sanu, so really in the passing game, it's Edelman and James White pretty much. I believe that this offense will not fall apart with Cam Newton. I think it's actually going to be pretty good, and I like Cam. And I think James White can be a great security blanket and catch 80 passes. And RB2 in the 7th round, I'm all for it. And again, if you're going running back heavy, RB3, 4, flex, whatever. I like James White this year. Cam Akers, another rookie who people are excited about. And I get it. I think that Rams offense rebounds a little bit. I think Malcolm Brown will probably take the goal line work. I think Darrell Henderson still is a athletic freak. So I don't know that Cam Akers grabs the job day one. And again, where you have to take him, he's probably not going to be on my squad, but I'm not going to be mad at you if he's your guy, like Swift might be my guy. Mostert, a starting running back on a great offense that you can get in the 6th round, yeah, like that all makes sense. I still have questions about Rahim Mostert this year. I think the talent is there, but he is a journeyman, and his touchdown rate last year was unsustainable, to say the least. I think he had 10 touchdowns, but he should have had 4, according to the data. And then crushed it in the playoffs in the NFC Championship game, got them to the Super Bowl. So, again, Kyle Shanahan offense, the lead guy day one, yeah. Is he going to catch passes? I don't know. Is Tevin Coleman going to get a hot hand in 3 of the 16 games and just push Mostert to the bench? Maybe. Is Jerick McKinnon back in the mix and a really talented football player? Absolutely. So there's a few factors there that, take me away from Mostert. Kareem Hunt, simply, a guy who's going to have standalone value, and if Chubb were to go down, he's a league winner. So, those are the type of guys that you look for. And J.K. Dobbins, again, similar. I think he'll have value day one, and I think by the end of the year on that team, he could be a league winner as well. Tier 9, and as we get lower down the tiers here, we're not going to talk so much about the guys individually. David Montgomery, Zach Moss, Devin Singletary, Tariq Cohen, Ronald Jones, Phillip Lindsay, Chase Edmonds. All right, we will talk about this group here because I like a bunch of guys here. So Montgomery, he probably would have been a little higher if not for the injury. But you talk about opportunity, he's got it, right? It's got him and Tariq Cohen, and otherwise the roster is pretty thin in the backfield. So I don't know how talented he is, but again, opportunity counts. So Montgomery is worth a spot. Zach Moss, guy I definitely want to talk about. He's a guy that I'm targeting in most drafts this year. It seems that he's at least pulled close to even with Devin Singletary. I think he surpassed him, and I think Singletary is fumbling away the job, literally and figuratively. And I think Zach Moss is a 3-down running back profile on a team that plays good defense, that wants to run the ball in the AFC East. Like, just it fits for Zach Moss to be a thing very soon in this league, and I am willing to take that chance. However, other people are starting to catch on, and the Moss Singletary average draft position are starting to get closer together, which if you're not drafting for, another 5 days, maybe it makes Singletary a value, and you're like, you know what, I want 50% of this backfield, but in the guy that I saw do it last year, makes some sense. Tariq Cohen, again, in regards to what I said about Montgomery, there's just not much there. There are not many people there. So Tariq Cohen, we saw 2 years ago, he was a top 15 back. And he can be in a position with other than Allen Robinson, Anthony Miller is pretty decent, but they just don't have that many ball players on offense, and Tariq Cohen is a playmaker. So I'm not mad at taking him as a flex type of play in the 8th, 9th round. Ronald Jones, we talked about a little bit in the Fournette piece. Phillip Lindsay, he's going to give Melvin Gordon a run for his money is the wrong word, but they're not phasing Phillip Lindsay out of this game. Melvin Gordon gets hurt a bunch, is already struggling with altitude in Denver. I like Phillip Lindsay in the 9th rather than Melvin Gordon in the 4th. And Chase Edmonds, another guy I'm targeting on most of my teams. I mentioned it with the Kenyon Drake piece before. I don't trust Drake, and I'd just rather take the cheaper guy. I think we saw Chase Edmonds last year when he started, was a number 1 running back that weekend in fantasy football. So Edmonds is a guy, 9th, 10th, 11th round. I want on my team for that major upside. Tier 10, I have, 20 guys here. This is all about personal preference and how you see offenses. And a couple of guys that I'll just call out. Boston Scott, similar to Chase Edmonds, I think he'll have standalone value day 1. And if Miles Sanders were to go down, we saw what Boston Scott could do at the end of last year. And we actually saw what both of them could do together. They're both productive running backs, even without an injury. And then if there is an injury, sky's the limit, league winner type. Beyond that, Josh Kelly, I like him to maybe fill that Melvin Gordon role in, I want to say San Diego, but instead I'll say Wales Vagina. No, the LA Chargers, Kelly is a guy that I'm willing to take a shot on in the late rounds. And, this is where those guys come into play here. The Darrell Williams, the Benny Snell, who I definitely would like to mention. Like I said before, James Conner is he's injury prone. I don't like that moniker usually, but it's been 2 seasons and we know his history health-wise. And Benny Snell, in his college profile, he's an absolute stud. And he came in last year for a couple games and produced. I don't know why he's way down below these other handcuff types. Like, again, Snell is the type of guy that I'm trying to get on every team too. If you haven't noticed, the way I like to play is to get a bunch of these RB2 types with massive upside, right? That something happens and they could vault to a top and then, makes my team dominant because I'm loaded with pass catchers. But that's more of a strategy talk. I think we're going to end the running backs right here. Again, if you want a copy of any of this, let me know. Let's move on to wide receivers. Tier 1. Many will just have Michael Thomas in this tier. I actually have Devontae Adams joining him. What can you say? 2 studs who are almost locks for 150 targets each. Sign me up. Tier 2, Julio Jones, Tyreek Hill, and Kenny Golladay. I think most people's tier 2 just have the first 2, Tyreek and Julio. And I got no problem with that. I'm just including Kenny Golladay. I expect him to be the one to take that next leap. I mean, if you followed me over the last couple of years, you know that I love Golladay from day 1, and I expect the Lions offense to take another step up. I like everything that's going on there in that offensive system, at least talent-wise. I don't know about scheme-wise, but with Stafford on the field, I think Golladay is, the next in that big body Julio type receivers to just be able to dominate. And I'm willing to put him up there in tier 2. Tier 3, Chris Godwin, DJ Moore, Allen Robinson. Loved Godwin last year and he came through. Tom Brady's favorite receiver is the open one. And I think Godwin is the guy who is going to get open way more than Mike Evans in that offense. And I don't expect Godwin to slow down at all. DJ Moore just quietly ascending every single year, and he's a superstar, and we're witnessing it firsthand, and he's just going to keep going. I think he's a dark horse candidate to lead the league in receptions this year. Love me some DJ Moore. Allen Robinson, back to the Bears, as we talked about in their backfield, just not much going on there. Allen Robinson is a stud alpha, and he's been doing it with pretty poor quarterback play his whole career. I assume Nick Foles is going to be the starter there. I'm not saying how great Nick Foles is by any means, but it's probably the best the best quarterback that Allen Robinson has ever had. Tier 4, Calvin Ridley, Mike Evans, Adam Thielen, and DeAndre Hopkins. So I'll start at the bottom because it's pretty low ranking for our boy D-Hop over here. And that comes down to a few things. One, his target volume the last couple of years in Houston has been astronomical. In Arizona, they often run 4 receiver sets. And I just think that, he's probably averaged 165 targets the last 3 years. I think that probably comes down to more like 130 targets. Number 2, switching teams is never a good result. There's never a good result for wide receivers switching teams year 1 on the new team, especially now with no mini camps. There's not that Kyler DeAndre bond just yet. Is he good enough to overcome it? Absolutely. One of the most skilled wide receivers in football, no doubt. But yeah, I have him, what is that? Wide receiver 10 rather than most people have him wide receiver 4 or 5. And in this tier, Ridley, I think he can match Julio this year in that offense. Mike Evans, we got Brady throwing him the ball in a Bruce Arians offense, and Evans does nothing but produce. And Adam Thielen, again, probably a lock for 150 targets, and we want our volume. Tier 5, a very fun tier, and I want a bunch of dudes from this group. A.J. Brown, Tyler Lockett, Odell, DJ Chark, Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, Terry McLaurin, Juju Smith-Schuster, Amari Cooper, Metcalf, and Cortland Sutton. So this is the reason that I'm probably not going to be looking at Cam Akers and David Johnson and Gurley or Le'Veon. I want, in rounds 4 and 5, I want 2 of these guys for sure, and maybe even round 6, depending on what type of league you play in. A.J. Brown, one of the most efficient rookie seasons ever. He just looks like a man out there. I hope, for all of our sakes as just football fans, that he gets 120 targets this year, because sky is the limit. He can be the one that just vaults to overall wide receiver 1 numbers. However, the way that offense runs, there's also a chance he only gets 105 targets, and then it's like, what's going on in that system? Lockett, I think, is underrated. I in my draft the other day, I got him in the 5th round at the 8th pick in the 5th round. I think he should be a 3rd-round receiver. I think playing with that QB in that offense with really only him and Metcalf to throw to, he was top 10 guy last year before he got hurt. Don't sleep on him. He's not as sexy as some of the other guys. Odell. I'm not going to have Odell on my team this year. With the Stefanski offense, and I think there'll just be less volume. I just didn't love what I saw with Baker last year. And more importantly, in order to get him, I would have to take him over Thielen, Allen Robinson, DJ Moore. I'm just not going to do it. But I won't be mad at you if you do. Obviously, talent's through the roof. DJ Chark, someone I want on every team. I think he's an explosive guy entering his 3rd year, and I expect that offense to have to throw the ball. And I think Minshew is going to be actually a pleasant surprise this year. The 2 Rams guys, Kupp and Woods. Who do I like more between the 2? Not sure. Kupp might be dealing with I believe they'd called it a side leg injury, which seems ridiculous, but they can both play for me, Kupp or Woods. I think you can probably get Woods a little bit later than Kupp, but Kupp has more touchdown upside. Terry McLaurin, another guy who can certainly play for me. Year 1 to 2 and 2 to 3 for wide receivers are always huge. We saw what he did as a rookie last year. We expect Dwayne Haskins to improve a little bit at least. And again, who else do they throw into? 150 target potential for McLaurin, and I would like to scoop up that volume and that talent. Juju, probably like Odell, not going to be on my team this year just because of, in this group, I just like him a little less than the rest. I think Deontay Johnson is very good, and Roethlisberger seems to look good in camp. There's just something about Juju right now that, all the metrics say I'm wrong here, and maybe he should be a 3rd-round pick, the talent and the position, and it's just a gut thing, really. And, I won't argue if you have him at the top of this tier or even a tier above. Amari Cooper, I just think Gallup has just as reasonable of a median projection as Amari Cooper, and I can get him 2 to 3 rounds later. So I like Gallup as a better play than Amari. But I like that offense in general, so whoever you're going to take there, I'm not going to be mad at you. Metcalf, physical profile, he's one of those guys like an A.J. Brown who could be the Calvin Johnson, Julio Jones, Brandon Marshall types. I prefer Lockett in that offense, but it also depends on the makeup of my team at that point. If I need the huge upside play, the guy who literally can be the overall wide receiver 1, I think Metcalf might be the play, but otherwise I'm going to go for Lockett for the more sure thing and the higher reception count. And Cortland Sutton out in Denver. I expect that Denver offense to really improve this year with the draft picks they brought in. Drew Lock, another year in the system. Tier 6, Tyler Boyd, Michael Gallup, Keenan Allen, T.Y. Hilton, Marquis Brown, Deebo Samuel, Christian Kirk, Devontae Parker, Stefan Diggs, Will Fuller, Jarvis Landry. Love this tier as well. Starting with Tyler Boyd. I think Tyler Boyd is another dark horse candidate to lead the league in receptions. I think Burrow is the truth. I think that offense is going to need to pass the ball and need to score points. And, last year, Jefferson in the LSU offense played the slot where Boyd's going to be, and he caught 109 balls out of 111 targets. Just like insane numbers on every level. And that's going to be Boyd's spot. Word out of camp is that Burrow and Boyd are, taking showers together after practice. And I love the talent of Tyler Boyd. I think he's somebody that I'm going to try to target in round 6 or 7 in most leagues. Gallup, just spoke about. Keenan Allen and T.Y. Hilton, similar roles, right? New quarterbacks coming in. Neither one of them are great at throwing the ball downfield, but these guys are such precise route runners, such professionals that they'll be the number 1 target. It's just how much volume are they going to get? Listen, they can both play for me in the 6th round for sure, because they will be the wide receiver 1 on their respective teams. I'm just more excited about some of the younger guys, namely Marquis Brown. Hollywood Brown, we saw what he did last year when on the field. That was the key for him, just needs to be on the field. Lamar is going to have to throw the ball more this year, and he's an explosive player. So if you want Marquis Brown, I'm not going to fight you. Deebo Samuel, if he hadn't been hurt, where would he be going in drafts? And we're at the point now where he might play week 1. So I think it's time to move him up the boards, as I have done here, because if he, like I said, if there was no injury, we'd be talking about him probably in the A.J. Brown realm, right? Just like a physical freak who they're going to get the ball with a good offense and a great coordinator. So I'm willing to take that shot on Deebo and assume that his health is going to work itself out. Even if he misses 2 games, still somebody I want on my roster. Christian Kirk, another guy that I want on all my teams this year. And another reason that I don't love Hopkins as much, I think Kirk and Hopkins, I think they might end the season with very, very similar numbers. And I'd rather take Kirk in the 9th and the 8th than Hopkins in the 2nd. Devontae Parker, it's weird because it all makes sense. Like his physical profile, his college history, what he did last year. But when it comes to time to click the button, I just have trouble doing it. But the way the numbers suggest and his body suggests and his physical attributes suggest, he should be 2 rounds higher. So it doesn't compute with me. Stefan Diggs, if you know me, I adore him as a football player every year. Not going to be on my team this year. I just don't like Josh Allen as a fantasy producer of top 1 wide receivers. Will Fuller. I love Will Fuller every year as well. This year, some people are excited about Fuller, but we know about the injury. Brandon Cooks is in town to take that Hopkins role. Randall Cobb. I think if Fuller's on the field, you kind of want him because any week he can be the overall wide receiver 1. In this range, I think I just rather take Gallup or Tyler Boyd or some of these other guys that we're talking about. Can he end up on some of my teams? Sure. Will he? I just don't know. The good news is, I guess the Texans are going to have to throw the ball a lot because their defense is going to be really poor. So I kind of like Deshaun Watson to really, maybe even lead the league in passing. Jarvis Landry to finish out this tier. I mean, all the guy does is finish in the top 15 wide receivers every single season, right? Same as I said with Odell, though, the pass volume is going to decrease there. The way that Jarvis has finished so high every year is on volume alone. In 150, 160 targets even back in Miami days, and he's probably going to look more like 120 targets. Can he turn that into 95 receptions? for sure, and finish as a mid to high-end wide receiver too, sure. And in the 7th round, not a bad value. Tier 7, Jamison Crowder, Julian Edelman, Deontay Johnson, A.J. Green, Marvin Jones, Sterling Shepard, and Brandon Cooks. Crowder, I probably have him a little higher than consensus, and that is strictly a volume play. The outside receivers on the Jets. Perryman, still unproven to me, even though he had a nice run at the end of last year. Denzel Mims, rookie, both of them a little banged up, and they have a brutal cornerback schedule to start the season, going up against some stud D-backs. So I believe that Darnold will be funneling the ball to the center of the field, and that means 150 targets for Jamison Crowder that you can get in the 10th round. Sign me up. Edelman. He doesn't have Brady anymore, obviously, but he was still Edelman last year. He was like a wide receiver 7, I believe, that you can now get in the 7th round. And Cam is no slouch, man. Don't give up on Cam Newton and this Patriots offense. I think Edelman will still catch his usual 90 balls. A.J. Green. So I think everyone, the consensus here is that A.J. Green is no longer A.J. Green, right? But in the 7th round, what if you decided to take a chip and place it on the square that says A.J. Green is still A.J. Green? And if you believe in Joe Burrow, and if you believe that the Bengals offense is going to throw the ball, and you believe A.J. Green is still A.J. Green, this could be a 2nd, 3rd round receiver that you can get in the 7th round. I'm not sure I'm willing to do it. I just want to throw that out there. Marvin Jones, a lot of people will say he's a great arbitrage play on Galladay, and I buy it. There's no one really behind them. Amendola in the slot is not bad. But Marvin Jones is a nice value pick in the 8th, 9th round. Moving down to tier 8. I'm just going to throw out a couple names from this group. Again, if you want my tiers, you can have them. Darius Slayton and Golden Tate. Let's take actually all the Giants. I have Shepard in tier 7 and Tate and Slayton in tier 8. The Giants have some players. They have a tough schedule, but on offense, between Saquon, Evan Ingram, and these 3 receivers, Darius Slayton, his rookie season was, comparatively speaking, off the charts statistically. And I don't know that he's that good. It might have been some luck. I'm willing to put a chip on any one of these guys, actually. I think they all have some value, whether or not you trust Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones ended up being a pretty decent fantasy quarterback. Mecole Hardman. Probably going a little too high for my blood. A little too rich for my blood, I think is that the phrase there. Super talented, a lot of balls to go around, just not enough target share with Kelsey and the running back and Tyreek and even Sammy Watkins and Demarcus Robinson. He just doesn't get on the field enough. If there were an injury and you tell me he's going to play, 90% of the snaps, he's a stud playing with Mahomes, obviously. But you're playing for those upside, you're buying those upside weeks. You're basically paying at his ceiling, I think, right now, unless there's an injury to Tyreek Hill. Randall Cobb, as I said before, I think Deshaun Watson doesn't have to throw the ball a ton. We saw it anytime. Remember Kiki Kuti? Because anytime he was on the field and healthy, he would, out of nowhere, rack up 9, 11, 13 reception games. That's Cobb's spot now, and I think Deshaun, like I said, could lead the league in passing. So I think Cobb is a super sneaky late round wide receiver. And then tier 9, again, I have about 15 guys here. Let me point out a couple. Miles Boykin, an athletic freak going into year 2 with an excellent quarterback and not that much competition for targets. Last round of your draft, I'm all in. If you tell me that Miles Boykin is actually going to be better than Hollywood Brown, I'll listen. Paris Campbell, slot receiver in a Phillip River offense with a ton of talent. Yes, I want to take that chance there. And I'll give you one more from this group. Corey Davis, the athletic whiz kid from, was it Central Michigan? Eastern Michigan? Top 5 draft pick, totally has not lived up to the hype at all. But if that offense is forced to open it up a little bit and all the attention goes to A.J. Brown and even Jonnu Smith, while there are 8 men in the box to stop Derrick Henry, I can tell a story where Corey Davis is actually a thing this year. All right, moving on to tight ends and QBs, and we're going to really go through this quick because it's been 35 minutes already. Tier 1, Travis Kelce, enough said. Tier 2, George Kittle. Enough said. Tier 3, Zach Ertz, Mark Andrews, and Darren Waller. Still in Philly, Ertz is going to be the guy, and he's a target monster. Wentz is a good QB. I don't trust the receivers that much. Is it going to be Deshaun? Is Alshon hurt? Rieger's out now. I just don't know. Ertz is just the safety blanket. Mark Andrews, ascending. If he becomes the overall tight end 1 this year without Hayden Hurst to soak up some of his targets, I would listen to that story. And Darren Waller, I think, is a little underrated. I think most people have him in a tier below these guys, but all he did last year was catch 90-plus passes, and he's due for some major positive touchdown regression. He only had 3 touchdowns, I think. And what do they have on the outside? Rookies, inexperience. So I think Waller is another safe bet for 90 catches again. Tier 4. And Tier 4 and Tier 5. So after those 5, right? The way to play tight end in my mind is get one of the top 5, or if you don't, get 2 of the next Tier 4 and Tier 5, and hope that one of them emerges, because a number of them will. Evan Ingram, Hayden Hurst, Chris Herndon, Mike Gesicki, Hunter Henry, TJ Hawkinson. And in Tier 5, I'm going to do them all together because they're all really jumbled. It all depends on personal preference. Tyler Higbee, Noah Fant, Irv Smith, Ian Thomas, Austin Hooper, Jared Cook, and Blake Jarwin. So for me, Chris Herndon, same reason I gave for Jamison Crowder is the same thing I would say about Herndon. I just think Darnold's going to have to throw, and he's going to throw it in the middle of the field more than the outside of the field. TJ Hawkinson. The only reason that I think he's not the guy for me here is he's still dealing with the same injury as last year. He's still not over it, and that really worries me. But I think athletically and upside, I think he's the one who could emerge and be in that top 5 for the next 5 years. Moving down to the next tier, Irv Smith in Minnesota. With Stefan Diggs out of there and no clear solid number 2 with Olabisi Johnson and the rookie Jefferson, I think Irv Smith could be the number 2 target in a Kirk Cousins offense that likes to throw the ball around a little bit. Ian Thomas. Anytime he played for Olsen last year, he produced. I like Teddy Bridgewater. I like that offense. And I think he's somebody that you can get super late that has serious upside potential to fill that Greg Olsen role admirably. Tier 6, Gronk, Goddard, Jonnu Smith, Jack Doyle, Eric Ebron. Again, you could take shots at any of these guys similar to the tier before. Jonnu Smith, people like just as much as Hayden Hurst. So personal preference as it comes to all this. And then Tier 7, nobody that interesting, to be honest. And QBs, who really cares? Because we know that with QBs, you usually just wait till the end and take whomever. In my draft the other night, for example, I was the last one to take a QB. Many teams had 2 QBs before I took one, and in round 17, I took Jimmy Garoppolo. And you're probably saying, what? You're going to play Jimmy Garoppolo? Fuck right I am. Guess what? He starts with Arizona, the Jets, and the Giants, and then I'll figure it out from there. We'll see how he does. And there's always, in 1 QB leagues, talent on the waiver wire to play matchups every week, so don't sweat it, guys. Anyway, Tier 1, Lamar and Mahomes, obviously. Tier 2, Dak, Deshaun, and Kyler. Kyler year 2, what he can do with his legs, maturing. DeAndre Hopkins, we know the reasons for him to potentially shoot up to the top of the QB draft board. Tier 3, Russell Wilson, Matt Stafford, Matt Ryan, and Cam Newton. That's right, big Cam. I just think anytime Cam's healthy, he's a top 5 QB. So I don't think that's going to change. Tier 4, Josh Allen, Tom Brady, Carson Wentz, Drew Brees. Not much to say there. And Tier 5, Rodgers, Minshew, Daniel Jones, Teddy B, Roethlisberger, Garoppolo, Goff, Mayfield, Tannehill, and Burrow. Any of those guys can play for me. I can play matchups. I can get 2 of them and switch off depending on who's got the hot hand and who's at home, who's in the dome. It doesn't matter. And then Tier 6, the rest of the dudes. So there you have it. There are my tiers. Again, email me, message me, whatever, and I'll send these over if you need them. And this is it. That's all you need, really. You're ready to draft right now. If you watch this and you have this paper as you walk into your draft, you're good. Will there be more strategy things happening this year on video? I don't know, to be honest. We'll see. For now, take this. Good luck in your drafts. Hope you guys dominate. Peace.